In this video, we would be looking at 5 critical diagrams that can help you improve your decision making skills. So I don't want to waste any further time, so let's start. So we have the diagram number 1 on our board and we are playing with the black pieces, and white plays a move like a3, a very standard move, just pushing up the pawn. And now here's your moment. Try to pause the video and try to think, if you are playing with the black pieces, what would be the move, what would be the plan that you want to execute with the black pieces. Okay, so first of all, it's not a puzzle, I would say anything. It is just a simple position from any particular game. And it's a simply dry position. No particular tactic is working, you just need to find a good move in this position. So I'm hoping that you guys must have had a great, deep, nice thought. And you must have came up with the move rook to c8. What's the idea? The idea is pretty simple. Getting all your pieces into your game. Basically, the rook on c6 is into the game. The queen on a5 is doing a good job. The bishop on f8 is kind of a good bishop. Maybe you can improve it further, but like bishop on f8 or bishop on d6 are generally nicely placed. So the only piece that is not really involved in the game is the rook on a8. So basically playing a move like a rook c8 is simply a good move and the best move eventually, basically getting all your pieces into the game. If you guys thought of moves like b5 that was exactly happened in the game, which was a bad move, here white is already playing the move knight to b1. And you can't play the move rook c8 because you are going to lose a piece. So you kind of have to capture, and after queen takes, now you can already realize how white is having the small advantage of getting the open c5, and now already queen c7 or maybe queen c6, and white can further press in this position. So this is how small things can actually change your position. So first, get all your pieces into the game, and if you are having this particular position and it's black to play, then considering a move like b5 makes perfect sense, because you have got all your pieces at the best square. Now you can further advance by pushing up the pawns. So this was the first diagram. It was a very interesting one. So now let's move on to the second diagram. Okay, so we have the second diagram on our board. This time we are playing with the white pieces, and black plays the move knight to b6, developing the knight, attacking the rook and the pawn. And here's your moment. Pause the video, you're playing with the white pieces. How would you like to continue the position? Try to guess the move. Okay, so there are a couple of options for white. First, you can either go for capturing the rook. Second, you can move the rook in order to protect the c4 pawn. I would say rook to c5 is the only move. So if you already play a move like rook c5, it's already a bad move. Black can play c6. And the rook is kind of paralyzed on c5. You can't move the rook because the pawn would be hanging, whereas black rook is completely free. So it's already bad for white. So the only option that is left is rook into d6. Pawn takes, and here's the critical moment. You should not only calculate one move, but you must calculate the whole complete variation. This is the complete difference between a beginner, intermediate, or into an advanced player. So after c into d6, try to pause if you have not really solved this particular position. Okay, so your c4 pawn is attacked. I think many of you guys have came with king d3, which is a fine move. It's a good move, no problem. But bishop to e4. If you found it, congratulations. You must notice one thing, that the pawn is on the same diagonal as the opponent's king. So if black tries to capture the pawn, already bishop d5, it's a check and black loses the knight. It's winning for white. So black can't really capture the pawn, and at the same time the b7 pawn is hanging, which cannot really be protected. So let's say king f8 takes, and now black captures the pawn. We capture the pawn, and here black captures on a3. And here's the critical thing, that knight a3 is already a blunder because of, like, I'm pretty sure mostly every guy must have thought of bishop d3, and the knight is trapped. You can get your king and capture the knight. But actually a funny part here is you can already play king d2. There is no need of bringing the bishop to d3, because for example if like d5 trying to escape via c4, king c3, because knight c3 is already a bad move. Takes, and we are a pawn up. So going back. So let's say knight b1 check, trying to run away. King c2, knight a3, king b2, and you will realize the knight is already trapped on e3. Knight c4 check. We can already take out the knight, and now we are going to be a pawn up, and it's a winning endgame for white. So this is how you must continue. You must try to find the candidate's move, trying to evaluate the position, try to calculate the whole line, complete series of moves, and you would be able to get the answer. So this was the second diagram. So now let's move on to the third diagram. Okay, so we have the third diagram on our board. This time we are playing with the black pieces, and white responds with c4. A very weird move, I guess. So try to pause the video and try to think, how are you really going to continue the position if you are playing with the black pieces. Okay, so first of all, let's try to evaluate the position. First of all, talking about the material is even. You can try to calculate all the material. Second, talking about king safety. First of all, black has not really castled, but the king is already on the king side, whereas our opponent's king is on the queen side. So whenever your opponent king are castled the opposite way, you should always try to attack your opponent king. So this is the first factor. Second, talking about the center control, white is having a much better center control. So there are two ways generally. You should try to open up the center whenever you are having the control of the center, or second, you should try to keep the center closed if you're not having the center under control. So after c4, I believe that many of you guys have thought of takes, knight f6, and like it's a fine move, but after queen c2, let's say bishop f5, white can play bishop d3, and it looks like a fine position, but the point here is, because of white is having a better center, white is having more space, and because of this particular reason, it's a fine position. Like, it's not really bad for black anything, but you could have done better. So after c4, as I said, whenever you have castled opposite side, you must always try to attack your opponent king. So playing the move b5. If you found this move, excellent move. So after b5, the idea is pretty simple. You want to open up the queen side. So after b5, for example, if cb5, you can already capture the pawn, and you can already sense how the rook is already opened up, and we are having some crazy chances to attack the opponent king. And if white tries to capture the knight, this was exactly happening in the game. Queen takes, getting all the pieces into the game, having this strong diagonal battery. Queen e4, rook b8, moving the rook, takes, and here you can already capture the pawn. With the pawn, it's a fine move. But in the game, we had bishop b7, and then capturing the pawn. And now you can't really capture the pawn on b5 because of bishop c3, and you kind of have to capture the bishop, and you already lose the piece. It's winning for black because black is a piece up. So this is how you must consider move. Whenever you have castled opposite side, you must always try to consider the moves like opening up your opponent's king side, or wherever the king has castled. So this was the third position, a very interesting one. So now let's move on to the fourth position. Okay, so we have the fourth position on our board. We are playing with the black pieces, and here white played the move bishop to b5. So this is the move. It's black to play. Pause the video and try to think, how are you going to continue the position if you are playing with the black pieces. The position is not so simple. Okay, so like a very natural move, but hard to find actually. Long castle. The idea is pretty simple. The rook on b7 is trapped. An important thing to note is whenever your opponent is having a piece on, for example, b7, g7, g2, b2, these four squares are considered poison pawn, or you can say a squares where the pieces can somehow get trapped in the end of the variation. So after, as you can see, the rook is on b7, already long castle, and the rook is trapped. And it's a natural move to See, but it's hard to make because after long castle, takes, white can capture the pawn on f7, and it looks like it's a bad idea. But here comes the best move, bishop to b5. And we are kind of saying that if the white king can no longer castle, so the rook on h1 can't really come into the play, so eventually black is complete rook up. And for example, queen c1 check, king b8, now black can start getting his other pieces, all the pieces into the queen side and try to checkmate the white king. The position is dead lost for white. And come to the starting position after bishop b5. I'm pretty sure that many of you guys have thought of knight e5, capturing the pawn, but after takes, short castle, and white is already pretty happy in this position because you can't really do a short castle, the knight is hanging, and if you try to do a long castle already in this position, rook b4 is a very strong move, queen b4, queen c2 check, and you try to move your king, rook b1, and the queen is lost. So this is why like knight e5 is not really working. And if a6, already bishop a4, the bishop goes back and nothing is happening, white is fine. So this is how you must try to play this position. Long castle, whenever your opponent is having a piece on b7, g7, b2, g2, think of a way to trap the piece. So a very interesting one. So this was the fourth diagram. So now let's move on to the fifth diagram. Okay, so we have the final diagram of the day on the board. We are playing with the white pieces. And here black played the move bishop to g7. It's white to play. Pause the video. Try to think how are you going to continue the position if you're playing with the white pieces. Okay, so white is actually having two candidate move, I would say. The knight is attacked first of all. Material wise, it's an even position. The knight is attacked, so you can go for sacrificing the knight, or you can simply go back with the knight, a safe move. Like knight into e6 is a very tempting option. Knight into f7 can easily be rejected after king into f7, and nothing is happening. So the decision is either to capture the pawn on e6, or either to consider and play the move knight to f3 back. First, talking about knight e6, which is the best move, a brilliant move. Pawn takes is kind of a natural move, or else you are going to drop a piece, takes, queen e7, and we capture the third pawn. So basically we gave up the knight for 3 pawns and exposed the king. Queen f7, and now there are two ways. You can either go for trading of the queen, f4, which is a very fine move. f5 is coming up, followed by g4, f5, and white is pretty happy. Or you can even try to keep the queens on the board with queen g4. That was exactly happened in the game. h5, queen h3. You can short castle. Now try to push your king side f pawn. Very strong way to play. So this is the one way, and this is actually the best way. If you try to play knight to f3, it's already a bad move, but this is a move that you must consider after you have calculated knight into e6 successfully. Then it's time for you to calculate knight f3 to just check is it working, anything is happening. Knight f3 is a bad move because of c5, and you are having a French-like structure. The d4 pawn is attacked. The e5 pawn is already going to collapse in the future. If the white pawn would have been on c3, it would have been a fine position, but this time it's completely winning. It's a better position for black. So if you found the move knight into e6, it's the best move. Congratulations. So guys, these were the 5 critical diagrams that can help you to improve your decision making skills. The topic was finding the best move. If you have successfully scored 5 points, congratulations, and make sure to tell me in the comment box below how many points have you really scored. So if you learned anything new today, make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. It's free for you, but it helps us to motivate to make more videos like this. I'm going to see you soon, so till then stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot Chess.